loneliness has a serious impact on our mental, emotional, and physical well-being. In this episode of the PS We Expire podcast, I'm exploring why. Why are we lonely? And what do we do when we are feeling lonely? Is there something that we can do to not feel isolated and to really feel connected with people in deep and meaningful ways? I am your host, Morgan Motzinger, and I'm so glad that you joined me today on this episode of the PS We Expire podcast. At the end of this episode, you are going to have 4 questions that you can ask yourself when you are experiencing loneliness that can help you make change in your life, that can help you think about loneliness in a different way, and can also help you just become emboldened to be exactly who you are, knowing that there are people that want to know you, that want to know the real you beneath all of the layers and all of the surfaces, all of the masks that we wear and the projections that we make. There are people that want to know you at your core. So thank you for joining me for this episode of the PS We Expire podcast. I'm so glad you're here. Oh, I have been hearing a lot about the negative effects of loneliness. Loneliness, according to peer-reviewed journals, according to the scientific findings within psychology, psychiatry, and even in the medical field. That just made it sound like psychology and psychiatry are not in the medical field, but I think you understand what I'm saying. That loneliness is a risk factor for cardiovascular disease, obesity, cancer, and then also things like dementia, depression, anxiety, suicide, and addiction. Loneliness is a huge problem. And I don't think that it has probably ever been so clear how lonely we really are as going through something like the COVID pandemic. So many people, we've seen this negatively impact our kids when schools shut down, when we had to stay away from our friend groups, when our support systems were not there in the way that we needed them to be there. And loneliness has really contributed to serious decline in well-being. So today I want to talk about what exactly is loneliness and how do we address loneliness in our own lives. And I have 4 questions that you can ask yourself if you are dealing with loneliness. Now, there is a difference. First of all, there's a difference between being alone and being lonely. Being alone, having solitude is actually a very, very important part of our lives. If you are someone that feels constantly like you need to be around other people, that you constantly are distracting yourself with things, that you have a difficult time being by yourself, that's worth doing some investigation. Like, what is it that makes it so uncomfortable to not have any external stimuli? I'm trying to remember where I heard about this study, but they asked people if they would rather have to be by themselves for like 30 minutes or get a kind of significant electrical shock. And most people chose getting a quick but uncomfortable electrical shock versus being by themselves for 30 minutes. I think that is so fascinating. And I'm not totally sure what contributes to people being uncomfortable with being by themselves, but I do want to just reiterate that being alone and embracing solitude and finding times to be by yourself is actually a sign of good mental and emotional health. Being lonely, however, is like you could be in relationship and feel lonely. You could have a ton of friends and feel lonely. And so what I want to address today is this epidemic of loneliness. And again, I have 4 questions that I want you to ask yourself if you are feeling lonely. In order to not be lonely, this is feels like a little bit of a paradox, but it goes back to what I was just talking about with the difference between being alone and being lonely. The paradox is that in order to not be lonely, you have to learn how to be alone, because it is when you are alone that you then are able to address and come up with the answers to the questions that I'm about to share with you. If you can allow yourself to be alone with your thoughts, alone with your dreams, alone with your values, then it is greatly going to impact the way that you connect with people when you're with them. So here are the 4 questions that you can ask yourself to address this issue of loneliness in your life. Number 1, are you lonely? Are you being yourself? This question addresses if you are living authentically. Now, what I mean by that is, are you censoring yourself, which is actually creating barriers between having other people actually know who you are beneath all the layers at a very core level? Are you being vulnerable and showing people who you actually are? This can be tricky when you maybe have been in relationship with someone for a long, long time and they know you in a certain way. And as you delve more into personal growth and self-awareness, you understand all the ways that maybe you have been people-pleasing or that you have accommodated other people at the expense of the things that you really believe or that you really want in your life, your ideals, your dreams, your values. You've consistently put yourself on the back burner, and that you have changed and shifted in order to accommodate other people's needs and values and beliefs and what they are asking of you. And so when you start to ask yourself those questions about, oh, what do I really want? What do I really want in life? What do I really care about? How do I really feel most connected with other people? When you start to answer those questions, then you can see patterns in your life where perhaps you have been inauthentic in your relationships. I do want to make sure that there isn't any shame attached to inauthenticity in our relationships. If we have learned that in order to be safe, in order to be accepted, that we have to behave a certain way. All of us learn this in childhood. Every single one of us learn this. And this is where we adopt our personalities. This is where we adopt our personas. This is where we learn coping mechanisms and techniques to keep ourselves safe. And many times they carry into adulthood until we reach a point of awareness where those things are not working for us anymore because something just feels like it's off. So when we address places when we have been inauthentic, there is no need for shame or for punishing ourselves or telling ourselves, that we've been terrible because we've been inauthentic. I don't think anybody wants to be inauthentic. I don't think anybody chooses intentionally unless they have, really nefarious purposes. But I would say in general, people don't choose to be inauthentic unless it is because they feel like it is a risk to their well-being by not being themselves. As you grow and as you become more aware of your inner workings, your inner narrative and inner dialogue, and you see the places where you have not been really showing people who you really are, that can contribute to loneliness. If people never get to know you, then there is less risk there of being rejected for who you really are, right? So that is a way that we keep ourselves safe. But the cost is that we never have the pleasure of other people connecting with us based on who we really are. They only connect with us based on the person that we represent. And that is not true connection. That still is just someone connecting with your mask or connecting with your front-facing person instead of who you really are. And this, it's tricky because for people to really know you is vulnerable. It's difficult to put yourself out there and to say, this is who I really am, and risk rejection at a deep level. If you want to understand how to combat this a little bit more and develop the ability to really be authentic, I would go back and listen to my episode on self-love, because self-love allows us to show all parts of ourselves to someone else. Okay, I am not suggesting that you do this to all the people on the internet. I am not even suggesting that you do this to people on your outermost circle. What I am saying is that the people who you allow into your inner circle, the people that you connect with the most, deserve to see who you really are, and you deserve to be seen for who you really are. So the first question is, are you being yourself? Are you allowing people to see who you really are? Question number one. Okay, question number two is, are you clear on what you want? Do you know what brings you the greatest sense of satisfaction in your life? Do you know what creative endeavors really light you up? Do you know the ways that you feel most connected to yourself and most connected to other people? Are you very clear on what you want? Are you clear on what you want your life to look like? So sometimes we can feel lonely because we haven't really asked those questions about what we really want. And so the connections that we're making with other people aren't aligned with what we want our lives to look like. And then there's this friction between how we're spending our time with other people and how we could be spending our time that really feels so aliving to us at our core. I will take a very important sidestep here and talk about tech use. So, one of the things that I think has contributed the most to this epidemic of loneliness is our reliance on our social connections that are not in real life. So we can feel like we are keeping up on our friends' lives, that we know what's going on in their lives. Maybe we even communicate on social media or texting or whatever. But when we do that, we are missing out on the majority of communication that happens when we're in person. So 70% of communication is nonverbal, which means that it is through tone of voice, it is through the context, whatever we're talking about, it is through body language, it's through eye contact, it is through being able to just sense the subtle shifts that happen when you share something with someone else. That does not happen in the same way when we're just on the phone, even when we're doing like a Zoom meeting, or if we are interacting with each other on social media. We have lost the most primal ways, pre-verbal ways that we have connected with people for thousands of years. So this illusion that we have because of the dawn of the internet and being able to connect that way, we have this illusion that we are connecting with people more than we really are. That can contribute to a significant feeling of loneliness. Now, I will say that the silver lining here is that never before in history have we been able to find people who align with us in the ways that we can find because of like specific groups. So I know people that have met dear friends because of, social media groups or because of apps or whatever, and they have connected in real life. I remember being in either junior high or high school and having some of my family members that were playing online games, but with real people, but they were playing online games with them, and they ended up meeting in real life and becoming friends in real life. And I think that that is like such a wonderful way to use technology to connect with people in real life. But I don't think that that is typical. I think that's very atypical for people to connect in real life on a deep level as a result of connecting via technology. So another way that technology has kind of hijacked our sense of connection with people. I just learned this term today as I was doing some additional research about loneliness, what contributes to loneliness and what the effects are of loneliness, is this phrase called phubbing. And I think I'm saying that correctly, but it's PHUBBING. And it is the act of looking at your phone while you are in conversation with someone else. This is one of my biggest, it's not even like a pet peeve. It is, there's not a lot of things that will make me elevate to a state of rage. I'm being very vulnerable with you here. That will elevate my stress level to a state of rage so quickly as being in conversation with someone and having them look at their devices, whether it's an Apple Watch or it's their phone or whatever else. I know exactly why this is such an activating behavior for me when other people do it. I had many experiences when I was younger where I needed something from, a caregiver, and the technology seemed to be more important. That was my perception. That was my experience of those events. But that has stuck with me because I've thought about this way. Like, if I was sitting down and having a meal in a restaurant with a friend, and it was just the two of us, and we were having a conversation, and we were really engrossed in the conversation, we were leaning in, we were engaged, we were right mid conversation, and someone came up and just stuck their head in between us and talked to my friend, I would find that to be so impossibly rude. I would find that to be just like such a disruptive and unkind behavior. Now think about it like this. If instead of that person coming up, what it was a notification on your phone and you looked at it, that has the same effect of telling the other person that what is on my device is more interesting and more important to me than you. It's more important to me than what you're telling me right now. And if you are in a conversation where there is deep vulnerability and openness, this can be one of the most damaging behaviors to connection that I think exists in our modern world. There are very few things that can make someone shrink back and close off, like having a technology interrupt the flow of conversation. So if you are the type of person who doesn't think that this is a big deal, and maybe the people that are in your life don't communicate that to you, or if you are the person that has noticed that and you haven't communicated how much that bothers you to the people that are closest to you in your life, I highly recommend just having a conversation about it and understanding that fubbing is a real problem and a significant barrier to connection, to true connection. So stop doing that, please, immediately. Okay, so the second question was, are you clear on what you want? Do you know what your values are, and are you in relationship with people who are aligned with those values? Okay, number 3. Here's your third question. Are you putting in the effort? You cannot be the one who always expects the other person to reach out. I know that this is this is such a hard one because the best relationships are founded on reciprocity, meaning that the amount of effort that I give is also mirrored by the amount of effort that other person gives. So reciprocity is I think one of the main ingredients for true deep connection with other people. Are you guys both putting in effort to hang out with each other? Are you putting in effort to keep up with each other? The best friendships that I have had and currently have are the ones where it's not really dependent on frequency. Like it's not dependent on how frequently we talk, but it's like both of us have this understanding that we like each other and that we want to hang out with each other. There's not ever really any question of like, if I get in touch with them or I need something, that I'm putting them out. Like I know that those people will always be there for me. So the question is like, if you are feeling lonely and you start to get into this place of like, nobody's thinking about me, nobody ever invites me to anything, it's not a very helpful mindset because it is going to prevent you from actually reaching out. And if your other friends are feeling like that too, then you're kind of screwed because nobody then is going to be the one to initiate anything. So my suggestion is that if you find that this is true for yourself, if you kind of just get stuck in those thought spirals of like, everybody's hanging out without me, which is not true, just start making shit happen. Seriously, like if you were like, I wish that I could have dinner more with my friends, well, freaking put something on the calendar with them. Like, make it happen. I wish that I talked to so-and-so more. Okay, like, make it happen. Put a plan in place and make it happen. And it doesn't mean like that you have to be with them all the time, or that you always know that like the other person is going to be available for you. But what I am suggesting is, if you feel like things aren't happening, own your own contribution to things not happening. Make stuff happen. I really love this idea of thinking about the ways, like this goes back to the second question, is like, are you clear on what you want? Thinking about the ways that you connect best with other people. So that might be going on road trips. That might be, I actually feel like I connect with people when we are just working in the same coffee shop at the same table with each other. I feel connected with people when we are out in nature together, on a hike, on a walk, whatever. Make those things happen. Put those things on the calendar. And as you get more clear on what you value and you align with other people as your true authentic self, you align with other people who want those same things, this gets a lot easier because there's not a lot of resistance. Like if you were like, I really want to go to this concert and you can't think of a single person that has a similar interest to you, like, okay, maybe it's time to branch out and start finding some people who do have shared interests. And then it will become easier and easier to make those connections happen IRL, in real life. So are you actually putting in the effort with your friends to develop the relationships that you want to? Why do we have this belief that if it's meant to be, that it will be easy? And I don't mean easy as in there's not ever any conflict or misunderstandings or whatever, but deep and meaningful relationships do take effort. I wouldn't say that they take work in a negative sense, but they definitely take effort. Like all good things in life, the things that you understand have the greatest impact on your well-being, they take effort. It takes effort to exercise, it takes effort to eat well, it takes effort to get out in nature, it takes effort to have hard conversations, it takes effort to develop deep and meaningful connections. And what I'm suggesting is that you really take a look at your investment in the effort that it takes to have those relationships. You may also just have to get better at saying no. You may have to get better at saying no to working late. You may have to get better at saying no to volunteering for things, or say no to things that people want you to do. I know this is really difficult, and this is people pleasing is people pleasing is it really will keep you stuck doing a lot of things that you don't really want to do. You may have to say no, even if you're uncomfortable, in service of your bigger goals for yourself and your long-term well-being. Start saying yes to the people and the activities that make you feel so lit up. And you know exactly what I'm talking about because you have been in situations and doing activities and with people where you come away feeling depleted and you come away feeling like just exhausted by the interactions and the activities. And then you know the activities and the people that you hang out with where you come away feeling like the world is a bit brighter, feeling like the possibilities are opening before you, feeling like you have a more positive outlook on the future because of the people that you're spending time with. So start listening to that and start investing in those relationships where you come away really feeling like that. Okay, the last question that I want you to ask yourself if you are struggling with loneliness is, do you know how to be uncomfortable? I really believe that we have lost the ability to be in discomfort. So again, like some of this I think is just a byproduct of tech use, right? So we get into these algorithm bubbles where we are only shown people that agree with what we agree with and that are interested in the things that we're interested in. and that we, as a result of not having a lot of like in-person stuff anymore, we've lost the ability to have uncomfortable interactions. So it is uncomfortable to meet new people. It is uncomfortable to like get past the small talk sometimes. It is uncomfortable to ask someone out, whether that's to develop a romantic relationship or a platonic relationship. I remember sometimes like meeting someone and thinking, "Man, I really want to be friends with this person." And it is so uncomfortable to say, "Hey, I think you're pretty cool. Like, can we hang out sometime?" Or like, "Do you want to go get coffee sometime?" Like it is uncomfortable to put yourself out there and risk rejection, but that is the currency to actually finding people that you connect with in a deep and meaningful way. So, you have to figure out ways to be okay with your own discomfort. The other thing that I want to talk about is when it comes to this idea of like being uncomfortable, do you know how to be okay with feeling lonely? When I thought about it in this way, this light bulb kind of went off because when it comes to uncomfortable emotion, we can kind of get stuck in this belief that how I'm feeling right now is how I'm going to feel forever. So if I feel lonely right now, I'm going to feel lonely forever. And then we just get stuck in this feeling of loneliness. And we also, I want to caution you to be very aware of the language that you're using because there's a difference between saying, I am lonely and I feel lonely. The difference is that if I say I am lonely, that somehow then that has become part of me. And I will continue to, I know that this may sound not true, but I have seen this in my own experience and have studied this enough to know that this is true. That if you believe something about yourself, you will find evidence in your life to support that belief. So if I say, I am lonely, I will find evidence in my life to support my loneliness and reinforce my loneliness because that's what our brains do. We give our brains a job and our brain is like, sweet, I will do that job. So when we say, I am lonely, we give our brains the job of finding evidence to prove that we are lonely. Now, this is a very subtle shift, but it is going to be very empowering for you. If you shift from I am to I feel, then you understand that this is still just a moment in time. I feel lonely. And this lonely feeling will not last forever because it's not attached to who I am. It's just something that I'm experiencing right now. So, can we be okay with feeling lonely and accepting that feeling lonely is just a part of life? It is a part of life for every single human. Many, many times over the course of our life, we will experience feelings of loneliness. Being lonely, feeling lonely, caught myself. Feeling lonely is not bad. It's just a feeling. Feeling disconnected is not bad. It's just a feeling. And when we can become a little bit like zoomed out and see ourselves experiencing certain feelings, then we have, not only do we have the ability to allow ourselves to feel it all the way through, but then we also have the ability to start asking ourselves questions about how to change it. Because if we are attached to this belief that I am lonely, it is much more risky to change that because then I'm asking myself to change who I am versus change the circumstances that contribute to me feeling a certain way. I hope that that distinction makes sense because I think that this is a really powerful mindset shift, not just in the field of loneliness, but we can apply that to anger, resentment, guilt, shame, etc. When we stop associating our sense of worth and our well-being with that emotion and instead see ourselves as a whole, good, perfect person experiencing those emotions. That's it. I mean, it's a game changer. So that's what I have for you today. If you are feeling lonely, the 4 questions that you can ask yourself. Are you being yourself? Number 1. Number 2, are you clear on what you want? Number 3, are you putting in the effort? Number 4, do you know how to be uncomfortable? I do want to share, just in this realm of do you know how to be uncomfortable? I just want to share one last little tidbit before I end this episode. And it's this: if you have not developed the skill of being okay with your own hard emotions, there's no way that you're going to be okay being in the experience with other people of them sharing with you their hard emotions. So if what this looks like is when someone shares a vulnerable thing with you and tells you how they're doing, and you immediately try and change the subject, or you go into fix it mode, or you use like just very trite kind of platitudes to like, oh, there, feel better, like slap a band-aid on that, like on to the next thing. That's a pretty good indication that you do that with yourself. And I guarantee you that you are creating not just potential, but you are creating an inevitable run-in with your own emotions, because you have not allowed yourself to feel what you're feeling. If you're always like in fix it mode or trying to logic your way out of it or slap a band-aid on how you're feeling, and you're not actually learning how to sit in the discomfort, to sit in the grief, to sit in the sadness, to sit in the anger, and allow yourself to feel it all the way through, that absolutely will create significant barrier between connection for you with someone else. Because really, the only way that we feel connected with others is when there is a dynamic of someone sharing with you their need and you being able to fill it, and vice versa. So I need connection, I need closeness, I need vulnerability, I need attention, I need reciprocity, and being able to, in love, understand how that dynamic ebbs and flows. And this is such a beautiful reminder. This is just coming up for me. A beautiful reminder that that is how we need to be in relationship with ourselves too. That we listen to ourselves and we listen to what we need, and we listen to how we can best meet that need, and we really take very good care of ourselves. That is what enables us to care for other people in a really deep way. The love and the compassion and the trust that we develop here with ourselves is what enables us to do that with other people. When we are so unafraid of shining the light in illuminating all the areas of our own lives with the people who are closest to us, that gives them permission to do the same, because they know you're a safe person to do that with. So I hope that this is helpful to you. And I hope that we all understand not only what a problem loneliness is, and how it has shown through the science to negatively impact our emotional, mental, and physical well-being, but that we also have some guidelines here, some actionable steps that we can take to address loneliness in our life. So I love you all very much. Thank you for being here. And before we go, P.S. we expire.